Why are we still doing this when we could just do this? And what does calligraphy add to writing that technology just can't take away? To answer that, we need to sift through ancient Chinese scrolls, complaints scribbled in the margins of medieval manuscripts, and the lustrous Islamic scripts that bring worshippers closer to God. The way we read a piece of art now is the way calligraphy has been read in China for thousands of years. This is partly down to the visual roots of Chinese characters. These are pictograms, drawings of objects that serve as words. So in that sense, looking at Chinese calligraphy wasn't so different from looking at a painting. But for all this talk of beauty, what do these texts mean? Well, it's not always that important. With every brushstroke, the calligrapher reveals something of themselves, capturing their spirit on the page. When 1st century Emperor Ming of Han heard of his cousin's imminent death, he asked him to write down 10 characters. It didn't matter which. Through the lines and shapes, the emperor could remain close to his cousin even beyond death. And Zen Buddhism, which originated in China, uses calligraphy as an important form of meditation to this day. On the other side of the world, in the Middle East, calligraphy was also a high art form, but for very different reasons. Since the 7th century, Islamic scribes have been applying Arabic scripts like Kufic or Maghrabi, first to paper in the form of the Quran, then to textiles, jewelry, tiles, and walls, making it a part of everyday life. Why is that? Walk into any mosque and you won't find a single image of animals or people. That's because worshipping idols is one of Islam's gravest sins, so artists poured their creativity into calligraphy instead. Over in the Western Hemisphere, sacred texts were also being copied, but perhaps not with quite the same reverence. With the fall of Rome in the 5th century AD came a fall in literacy. Charles the Great decided to change this by mobilizing the monasteries. Here, human assembly lines of monks would first prepare the paper, copy out one manuscript after another, and finally, illuminators would add illustrations. This effort to restore texts led to the creation of the Carolingian minuscule, a standardized writing style, easier to copy and to read. With machines as the new scribes, books ceased to be luxury items. Thanks to the printing press, calligraphy was even given a name, because before that, it was just writing. And while it was no longer needed to laboriously copy out books, it still had a use. This is probably what you think of when you hear the word calligraphy. Copperplate calligraphy was a style used for legal and financial documents in the 17th and 18th centuries. Still, the printed word and simpler methods of writing meant calligraphy lost popularity. But British craftsman Edward Johnston revived calligraphy in the early 20th century. Recognize this? Johnston came up with the original London Underground typeface and roundel, now an icon of the city itself. Inspired by medieval manuscripts, Johnston spent decades studying and teaching the art of writing. It's perhaps thanks to him that the art is alive today. From beautifully written menu boards to inspirational memes. In an increasingly digital society, and perhaps because of it, more people than ever are embracing the meticulous, slow, and satisfying beauty of calligraphy. After all, there's nothing quite like putting pen to paper.